Hello and welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Amanda. So I'd like to begin this video, which is about the new moon solar eclipse in Libra, by sending my condolences and so much love and healing to all those in North Carolina, Tennessee, and the area, the region, Florida as well, who have been impacted by the tragedy that is Hurricane Helene. There has been so much devastation, destruction, and sadly death due to this very unnatural occurrence. So this is a very, very amplified symptom of the corruption coming up to the surface that is part of this eclipse season. This is the clearing out of the old era, and what we are seeing in very tragic reflection is the deep systemic corruption. I just saw 111 on the timer as well. And so we're going to zoom out and look at the grander cycle shift that is happening with this eclipse season. I spoke into it in my last video, which was the lunar eclipse a couple weeks ago. And we're seeing things amplify and really come to a surface as the Piscean age is ending. And with all of these very specific, nuanced, Libra South Node, Aries North Node, these specific energetics that connect as well to the lunar conjunction with Black Moon Lilith and all this feminine energy, the dark feminine, the distorted feminine. This is all being amplified and brought to the surface as we're seeing the deep systemic corruption that is connected to the patriarchy, which obviously is connected to the suppression of the feminine and the desecration of the womb. So a lot of deep energies coming through to be discussed right now, but let's just zoom in to the nodal axes first to get grounded in the energetics of this Libra eclipse, okay? So eclipses amplify. They amplify the new moon energies. New moon or new beginning, right? So when we have the eclipses, what it does is it just amplifies the energetics that are specific to that particular new moon. And then it sets us up for the next 6 months. It's a 6-month cycle of growth until the next eclipse season, more or less. So give or take, a couple weeks or whatever it is. So the South Node is in Libra, the North Node is in Aries, and this is, of course, Libra season as well. So the Libra energetics being in the South Node in particular is bringing to surface imbalances and distortions in relationship dynamics and energetics. So this will amplify relationships of all kinds, particularly that with self, though, with Aries in the North Node, but it does amplify imbalances and disharmony in intimate relationships, friendships, business relationships. So this really spans the gamut. And we're seeing also the relationship with our government being amplified. So codependency in particular is one of the shadow frequencies of relationship dynamics that are being highlighted and brought to the surface. And to me, what I'm feeling with this is the illumination of our codependency with big government tendencies. But the silver lining that I have seen with this hurricane is that humans are stepping up to help humans, that we are coming together as a collective and doing what needs to be done to help each other. Because the sad truth is the government's response has been grossly inadequate. There's no ifs, ands, buts about that. They were way too slow. There was so much more that could have been done. It was underreported. And if you really want to get deep into it, they didn't want to help. That might be another video for another time. I really don't want to get too deep into the dark rabbit holes here, but weather modification was definitely at hand. There was a lot of dots that connected that point to this being the case. And the implications of that are very sinister. They're very dark. And when we look at the actual response of how they did not step up, and maybe they're doing a little bit now, but when we were sending billions overseas to fund more death and destruction and not assisting the citizens in our very own country, you know, that's a very, very large issue. I don't care what side of the political spectrum anybody might be on. That is not okay when the government is funded by our tax dollars, right? So this is the corruption coming to the surface. It's being amplified and ramped up in grand fashion with this eclipse season in particular, as Pluto is set to go direct in just a few days on October 10th. And then it will enter Aquarius officially November 19th for the next 20 years. So it's been back and forth all year, which is why we've seen so much chaos, the chaos ramping up, and it's rapid fire disclosure. This is disclosure, my friends. This is what disclosure is the disclosure of the corruption and the shadows in our greater system, in our governance, and so on and so forth. But it's in the corporatocracy and the deep state and whatever you want to call it, right? It's all coming to light, but also the shadows within. So as within, so without. It must begin within. Sound like a broken record. I probably say that in every video, but this is the truth. We've got to do the personal inner work. Otherwise, we will continue to energetically perpetuate that reality through the quantum. If we engage in the division and the anger and the separation, then we're only going to serve to perpetuate. If we tamp down our own power and do not claim our voices, then we're going to serve that cycle of victimhood and disempowerment as well. So it's not about not holding boundaries firm when people cross the line and are rude or something like that. No, we get to hold our boundaries with love and speak our truth with grounded grace and harmony. But speaking from a higher truth, sometimes that sort of truth has to come through, and it has to cut through the illusion and deception and manipulation and distortion. Sometimes the truth hurts, but it's only going to hurt the ego that is still operating in distortion. So it's coming from a higher space of love, ultimately serving our greater evolution and empowerment. So these truths may be very difficult to grapple with in the moment, and I send a lot of grace and compassion for people who are still grappling with the very real betrayal, that comes when you recognize the depths of the deception, the real grief that happens, and then of course the very real grief that is happening for so many right now, seeing the death and destruction. It's horrific. I've seen posts of people, I have friends in the area, and you know, it's very, very disheartening. But we have to stay strong and anchored in our truth and focus on what we can do to help and what we can do to move forward and how we can fix the systemic issues. First, that comes with recognizing that they exist and that we've got to do that work within in order to grapple with those greater issues. If we're not anchored in ourselves, anchored in our truth, and have that capacity, literal nervous system capacity to face the very great deception and distortion and corruption. If we are scared to face the shadows, we're not going to have the capacity to actually change things on the collective level. So we've got to do that inner work in order to be able to take our heads out of the sand and face it head on. And yeah, it's very dark. It's very confronting when you first look at it. And a lot of people aren't ready for that. So we have to be the beacons of light, holding that frequency of love and compassion, as well as this higher truth for those who are going to struggle as we move through these chaotic times. Unfortunately, I do feel that the mayhem is only going to amplify as we move forward. as more of the corruption is brought to light. And it seems like every single day there's something else. And a lot of the things we see in the media are actually distractions for something more insidious. So we had the Diddy, what do we call that? A revelation? I don't know. A revelation come to light, but that was a distraction for what was going on at the UN. They made that pact, that global agreement for oh gosh, I don't even remember the name of it because that feels like it was a month ago already, and it was just last week. It was about crisis management, I think, generally speaking, especially like pandemic management. So when there's an emergency situation, they can basically take over, but these are unelected officials, right? So this is that global governance, that corruption coming to light. And then we look at North Carolina and we see that, oh, there just so happens to be a quartz mine, and there just so happens to be a lithium mine, and so another 111 on the clock. And they just had a meeting just a few months ago about creating Asheville becoming a smart city, and it's 11:11 on the clock now. So what are the greater implications for that? I'm gonna leave it there for now. But with the South Node in Libra, it's what are the relationship dynamics, the karmic cycles and patterns that we're ready to release. And again, that has a lot to do with disempowerment, with victimhood, and with codependency. So again, that's coming to the surface. So it's this other versus self, this collective versus personal dynamic that is coming through this nodal axis, the Libra South Node and the Aries North Node. So as we enter the age of Aquarius, the age of me and we, this nodal axis cycle is actually supporting us in getting very anchored in our personal truth and authenticity, so that when we do come together collectively, we're operating from a frequency of grounded truth, so we don't get entangled in further energetics that will create more distortion as we build a new foundation for a new future. So it's like everything is just being leveled to the surface. Maybe the foundation is still in place, but we're fixing up the cracks, and then we're rebuilding everything. So everything that is not in alignment with the higher truth of love and harmony, all distortion must be cleared out. And so to get into that Aries North Node, this is us stepping into our leadership energy. It's about self-empowerment, releasing that codependency, and standing in our authentic truth, not getting swayed, not allowing the herd to control our mind, the hive mind, and really operating from the higher frequency of that collective hive coming together to create an overflow. So this is about embodying autonomy, independence, and what do we need to release in order to get there? So again, self-reflection, awareness of the patterns without personal judgment, and just grappling with it head on and saying, okay, where am I still perpetuating this in my personal life? And what do I need to do? What action steps do I need to do? What frequency do I need to embody going forward so that I can become part of the solution? So this is, again, very much balancing the relationship with self first and foremost, because when we get that right, then it has a ripple effect into every other area of our life. Our intimate relationships, our personal relationships, our business relationships will inevitably improve, and anybody who might not be aligned with this new version of self will just automatically fall away. And maybe not so automatically, but this is going to be an exercise in, standing firm in our boundaries, standing clear in our truth. And I just saw 1414. So this is an opportunity to speak our truth and to prioritize our needs, not from a space of selfishness, from the shadow energy, but from a space of having our needs met so that we can pour from an overflowing cup and serve from that higher truth of embodied authenticity. Authenticity is one of the most powerful frequencies. They've done literal studies on this. The impact of it is 4,000 times stronger, according to the Spain study, than love, because we have to move through love to embody authenticity, because love is the higher truth. So if we are standing in our embodied authenticity, we have to, by default, be operating in a frequency of love and above. So it actually makes a lot of sense that authenticity is a more powerful frequency. And when we embody love and we speak that out into the world, this is having a healing vibration on the planet, no matter what. So resourcing ourselves is one of the key themes here, so that when we come together collectively, we heal our relationships and we work as a cohesive collective, harmonically influencing the whole for the better. And this is just, it's very practical. It's not just, you know, like operating in a like la la land, lovey-dovey, love and light kind of energy. It's grounding it down so that we can take embodied action to build the new systems and structures. And what does that look like for each and every one of us? It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be like out there literally building things or creating a new governance system, whatever it is you're here to do. Maybe it's to like paint artwork or literally give birth or to write books. And actually I've been writing my book. And so, you know, part of what I feel I'm here to do is to share these truths. And this is in my chart as well. So there are many aspects and manners in like aspects to how I'm doing that and ways I can do that going forward. But we get to figure that out for ourselves. We get to really get clear on what fills our cup first and foremost, but from a higher perspective, what is our purpose? What is our truth? What lights us up? And bring more joy into the world through those creations that we're birthing. And so now I feel that was a beautiful segue into the feminine aspects of the moon energies. So we have the new moon in direct conjunction with Black Moon Lilith. And then we have this two moon phenomenon coming through with this asteroid in the sky, which is what most people are focusing on. But in fact, we actually literally have this conjunction with Black Moon Lilith, which isn't a planet, it's an aspect. But Black Moon Lilith is basically the dark feminine aspects being highlighted. Lilith, I mean, I think everybody knows Lilith from the Bible and everything, right? So it's that dark feminine that's kind of distorted. So these are the dynamics that are being amplified. And I did see an astrologer say something about the corrupted dark feminines incarnated on our planet, like in positions of power and leadership. They're going to be revealed. So I'm not going to name names in this video because it's all conjecture right now. But, you know, think of some of the top political figures, top celebrities. Some of them, we might be learning some pretty shocking truths about them as well. You know, we have all of this disturbing stuff coming out with Diddy and that whole... it's basically opening up a can of worms, right? And you know that I don't want to get into too much of this because I don't know what's going to be flagged and what's not. It's the sad truth of where we're at in society, but yeah, it is disturbing, and there's a lot that goes into that. So we are grappling with this feminine energetic of the feminine suppression and the desecration of the womb space for us to really examine individually and to clear out any distortions, even through our ancestral lineage. Like, where are we holding on to the trauma, to the suppression, to the rage as well, to any distorted feminine dynamics, the manipulation tactics, because that was a survival mechanism that kicked in when, because we were powerless for millennia, right? We had our power taken away. So part of this grappling is healing that rage, that frustration, that resentment, that desire for vengeance and manipulation. I don't know if I said that just now, but any frequency related to that, we are being called to grapple with, to release the pain and the grief and the trauma from our womb space as well, the desecration and violation of the womb that has happened over millennia. So to heal that deep trauma. It's a lot. And to heal the mother wound. So this is for both the men and the women out there in the collective. We're being called, a masculine, feminine, whatever, we're all being called to heal any mother wound energies that we're still operating within, especially the men in society. I don't think any of this chaos and death and destruction would happen if men had healed their mother wound, if men honored the womb from which they came and they honored the feminine by default. We would have basically none of this. And I don't want to place the blame only on the men, because the women, we play our own role in perpetuating it. But this is about us reclaiming our power and not being afraid to do so. So the shadow aspect is the misuse of power that we may have engaged in this lifetime, in past relationships that we might have had, where we kind of did fall into that fallen dynamic, that fallen energy. But also going way back, where might we have operated in this power over dynamic, because the feminine is a powerful energy. So the dark feminine that seeks to control, that, think about the evil queen energy, the Ursula energy, to use the feminine mystery archetypes that we see in the fairy tales. So it plays both ways, right? So the divine feminine is resurrecting, but in order to do that, we must integrate the shadow aspects of the feminine. And that's what's being amplified. And all this is happening while Venus herself, the ruler of Libra, is in Scorpio, which is that underworld dynamic ruled by Pluto, governed by Pluto. So we have all this underworld energy coming through in the planet of love and harmony, the planet of the goddess, the feminine, the divine feminine. So this is amplifying these feminine energetics to be grappled with and integrated very, very directly. So the Libra, again, is the scales of justice. So we're restoring balance and harmony on all levels. But we can even also say it's like if we're gonna tip them in one direction, this is tipping in the direction of the age of Aquarius as we end this massive cycle. So Pluto has been doing its rounds and It's not really what I intended to say, but it has basically come full circle up the spiral since 1776. So the term for that is the US is experiencing its Pluto return. So we have this revolutionary energy with us, but we also have this end of an entire Kali Yuga cycle. So these grander cycles that the Earth goes through that facilitate both Earth and humanity's evolution as we connect with the galactic center. So we're moving through space and time in very cyclical patterns, but we're also moving through the universe, and we're going through this photon belt, and it ramps up the energetic frequency that facilitates evolution of consciousness by bringing more high frequency light codes onto the planet and into each embodied individual. So just like plants take in light, if we eat healthy, we eat the polyphenols, we're going to be able to absorb the sun in a healthy manner. The more toxic our load is, the more likely we will get burned. But if we eat the right diet, then we have the capacity to soak up the sun in a literal manner. And so we're going to be able to receive these light codes, also no sunglasses. This is how we receive the activation of our pineal gland and anchor in the light in a very literal manner. And this is where the DNA upgrades come from. This is where the amplification of higher consciousness comes through. So we open up the chakras and are able to receive the divine guidance. So I didn't plan to say that in this, but it does all connect, because as we go through these grander cycles, we were still in the dark ages with the revolution of 1776. So we saw the power dynamics coming up to the surface with the revolution, but it was like letting go of the old dynastic structure of the British Empire. Now, if you really want to go deep into it, did we really? But here is another sweep. It's more of a final sweeping out of that power over dynastic energy, because even in America, we have these political families that are essentially political dynasties. I don't really want to name them all, but when you even look at celebrities, a lot of them are all related. So when we really zoom out, it's like that whole elitist structure never really went away. It's just like, it's not monarchy, but it's hierarchy in a different form. And every corporate structure is an absolute pyramid scheme. The banking system, absolute pyramid scheme as well. So we've got all of this distortion coming up to the surface. So Venus is also it's the planet of beauty and pleasure, but it's also abundance and financial material aspect. It's the planet of relationships when it comes to Libra, but we also have Venus as the ruler of Taurus. So all of these energies are coming up to the surface to be grappled with and brought into harmony and balance. And as we anchor into higher consciousness, we're able to perceive these truths more clearly, but also these eclipses are helping to pierce through the illusions so that we can see more clearly, so that we can open up more, so that we can open our hearts to the deeper wisdom that lies within our body. The body holds the codes. The body is the key. You are the key. So as we clear the dark feminine, this is really helping to break down the lunar feminine matrix that kept us in illusion and distortion and trapped to this inverted matrix, basically. So we're ascending into solar feminine, so solar masculine and feminine are coming into harmony and balance. The solar queen, the solar king coming into beautiful harmony is what's happening. So this generational shift is part of the Pluto return shift in America and United States, I should say. The United States obviously has a profound impact globally because of the position that we have played, in global politics and everything. And then we get into the bigger 13,000, 26,000 year cycle, the end of the Kali Yuga and the end of an entire 26,000 year cycle as we enter a new golden age. And it's only golden if we release the shadows and we scrub away all the grit and the grime that come from the distortion and the trauma and the pain and the wounding. And so it's up to each and every one of us to purify, to purge, to clear. So the purging in the collective that we're seeing is of the distortions, of the illusions, of the deception, of the manipulation, of the corruption. So all of that grit and grime is being cleared out from the collective energetics as well as our personal energetics. So this is facilitating awakening on a very profound level. So I do have this note here that I feel is important. So nothing can grow properly because the feminine is the energy of fertility, of growth, of birth, of creation itself. It is the void space of creation. So nothing can grow properly when the feminine is out of balance. And because we've had this distortion of the patriarchy, naturally all the systems that have been created, all the systems and structures that have been created have been built on a fundamental distortion. And so Pluto and Capricorn being about structures and systems, it's breaking down everything that has not been built in alignment with higher truth and the frequency of harmony and abundance and love. So with this creative nurturing energy being called to be brought into balance, this is how we can then create a more beautiful future. Again, it's all energetic, but everything is energy. So it becomes very practical when we think about how do we fix our systems and our structures, and how do we fix our relationships. It's by doing the inner work. It's by working with these greater energies that are assisting us in our growth and evolution. So this is, again, to wrap this up, Libra with the scales. It's about inner union and harmony. I got this message yesterday, something about the twin hearts. And I felt like it was this inner union energy that was coming through. I don't remember the specific thing, but I was like, what does that even mean exactly? But I feel it was basically amplifying this idea that we need to come into inner union and inner balance above all. So the scales within of the masculine and feminine coming into harmony and balance. It's a balancing act. But when we are in inner union and our heart is healed and whole, then that blossoms and it allows, I just got tingles all up my legs. That's beautiful. So yes, this is about the blossoming of our whole heart so that we can allow the diamond to shine through. I always perceive our hearts to be this beautiful rose that blossoms open, and then there's this beautiful, brilliant, shiny diamond that is in the center, just waiting to be revealed when the heart does blossom open. So we are in a time of rapid revolution right now, rapid evolution. I didn't even mean to say that, but this is absolutely a revolution. Freudian slip. They both apply. This is a time of rapid evolution and revolution. We are in revolutionary times indeed. So we are, again, just to recap, we are being called to come into balance and to really get right in our inner world so that that can have a ripple out effect into all our relational dynamics, because everything is built off of relationships in our world. So if we can get that inner relationship right, then that will have that ripple effect, and we will be pouring from a cup that overflows. We will be that beacon of light that helps others follow the path, that helps them find their truth, that helps them to see the truth. So as we step forward, we're really being called to, with the Aries North Node, claim our power, claim our autonomy, and embody our authenticity so that we can serve in our highest capacity. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm just, there's so much that's happening. So stay grounded, go outside, stay connected with your heart space above all, with your higher truth, with your connection with God's source above all. This is where our greatest protection lies. Trust the process, but also remember that we are the change that we wish to see. Nothing will change unless we do the work and show up. This is not a time to seek the savior, because that's actually a part of the book that I was editing today. I think I mentioned that I'm writing a book now and I'm in the editing process, and it was this idea of seeking the savior outside of us, whether it's a doctor, the government, or even Jesus. What Yeshua taught, walking his path, is that we have the truth within, we have the source within, and we are as powerful as he is. So he didn't want a religion created off of him, right? So this is about taking back the power within and knowing our divinity within, allowing that to blossom. That's the diamond, that's the crystalline consciousness, the crystalline heart that is Christ consciousness being embodied. So I hope this assists, this facilitates your process as we move forward. So yes, this is about the eclipse today on the 2nd as I record, and I know a lot of people record in advance, but for me, this is about the next 6 months. This isn't about today, this is about the next 6 months. And God knows what's going to happen with the upcoming election. I do believe, again, that there's going to be a lot more mayhem going forward, but the important thing is to stay grounded in our truth and to stay empowered in our authenticity so that we can help to shift things forward. And this is how we collectively change. It begins within. So I hope this resonates. I so appreciate the likes, subscribes, comments. I would love to hear how you've been feeling with these energies. It's been up and down. People are at different phases of their processes. And yeah, like I said, I'm working on my book, so it's been a little harder to be consistent with the recording because there's just a lot. I already feel behind with the getting the book out there, but stay tuned. It's called Let There Be Light is the working title. I know there's other books out there called that, but that was the name that came through. It just fits. So stay tuned. I cannot wait to put that out there. Of course, as I'm editing, I'm like, I could improve this, but you know, it's not about perfection. It's about putting it out there. And this is, you know, one of the ways that I'm doing my best to serve. So, oh, and I am hosting a retreat at the end of October, right before the election, as the veil is thinnest over Samhain. This is for the women out there. So it's the Sacred Self Embodiment Retreat. If you would like to find out more details, then I'll add the link below. And I am sending you so much love. Stay grounded, onward and upward, and love and light. We got this.